right, as they say, I have found myself once again back in the frying pan. Here once again to discuss another element of the Infinity Engine games, this time being the companions in this episode, which is going to be Baldur's Gate 1. I was going to do Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 in the same video, and then I realized that would be like a 10-hour video and would be very impractical. Although some people might like a 10-hour video, but my exporting software certainly wouldn't. So we're going to split up Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. So today we're going to talk about the companions in Baldur's Gate 1. I have had the idea for this video really ever since I did the class guide about a year ago. And I just kind of kicked it around because I didn't really know how I wanted to do it, or even if I should, because there are a lot of fantastic companion guides out there. Deveorn had a great one. There's a couple of written ones that are fantastic. And they all, to me, really hit on what you want or need from a companion class guide. And so I was always kind of like, well, I don't really know what I would say in mine. And I kind of just came to the conclusion that, well, I definitely have different opinions about these companions, because what is strong and what isn't in a lot of ways in these games is definitely something subjective. So I figured I could throw my hat in the ring and talk about it a little bit. But what I'm going to do specifically, and I will say this up front, this is going to be very similarly to my class guide. I am going to be looking at these companions as if you are playing these games what I'm going to call normally, or perhaps generally. This is not the class guide for you if you are looking for information on how to play with 47 different mods, and how to play on insane difficulty, and how to get these companions to their absolute apex predator peaks. Right, through specific item loadouts and skilling and whatever. Like, that is not this. This is a general, if you were to play these games normally, unmodded, maybe you're new to Baldur's Gate, maybe whatever. Just as the average person would play these games, what do I think of these companions? We will discuss things like their stat lines, their location, the conflicts that they have with other party members. Do they give you access to unique quests? I will also talk about a little bit whether or not I like them from a personality standpoint, and so on and so forth, and I'll give them a tier list ranking. I have all sorts of notes here. I've got a 10-page document here with different notes about the companions. I've got the wiki open. I've got item lists open. I have stuff everywhere. What you will see on screen will probably just be a photo or an image of the characters' like stat sheet from the games. So this is truly podcast material. I don't really have any video to go with this, but we will get into everything sort of that I think might be relevant, again, to playing these games practically, normally, and how these party members fit into that. And to start with, we have a great party member to start with, because it actually lets me hit on a couple of important mechanics that impact the game and play into what you do and can do. We're going to go in alphabetical order, which means we are starting with Ajantis Ilvastar, a lawful good human paladin, who is a paladin of the most noble order of the Radiant Heart. He is found in the fishing village, which is just north of the Friendly Arm. And he's got a stat line of 17 strength, 13 dexterity, 16 constitution, 12 intelligence, 13 wisdom, and 17 charisma. Couple of things about Ajantis are very important to recognize. So he, first and foremost, being a paladin, as you might expect as a paladin, up front, I think Ajantis is B tier, and I'll get into that. So he's a great sword arm, right, with that 17 strength, and he gets some decent health from that 16 con. The 13 dexterity hurts, but he is really great Ajantis, and we'll get into his combat in a moment. He's great because he makes a great face of the party. So especially in Baldur's Gate 1, things like charisma and your reputation impact what's called reactions. Now, reactions are really important because they influence what rewards you get from quests, as well as, especially with charisma, the prices you get from shopkeepers. So if you have a higher reputation, you're likely to get better rewards from quests as opposed to if you have a lower reputation, right? Your reputation exists on a scale of 1 through 20. And it's important because depending on a character's alignment, they can leave your party because of your reputation. So good characters will leave your party if your reputation drops to 2 or lower. Evil characters will leave your party if your reputation drops to 8 or increases to 18 or higher. Neutral characters will not leave if your party reputation gets upwards of 18, but they will leave if your reputation hits 1. It's called a reputation break. Hitting a reputation of 1, quite frankly, is like borderline impossible. You basically just have to like start killing innocents at that point. But so reputation's really important, and Ajantis with his charisma can make a great face. Ajantis also has a very, very low morale standard. So morale is important because morale is influenced when characters see things. When characters lose certain health, they lose morale points. When they see a party member die, they lose morale points. And if their morale breaks, which basically means it drops below whatever their morale threshold is, they will start to flee. And basically fleeing acts as if they are like feared, which means you have no control over them. They just wander. You can't do anything. It gets bad. Ajantis having a very low morale break is great. But onto the more sort of combat things. So again, face, reputation, that's all great. Low morale is great. The reason I have Ajantis as a B is because we need to talk about the next element of companions, which is conflicts. Oh, conflicts. Ajantis will conflict because he is a paladin. And Ajantis is all about doing good and stomping out evil. And Ajantis sees evil in, frankly, everything. Anywhere you go. I forget what the exact quote is. Can I find it here on the wiki page? Anywhere you go, Ajantis will claim that he sees evil in it. So, like, if you're in a city, he will say, this city stinks of evil. That's not the exact quote. Yeah, so he will says, I've just found it. This city has a sense of evil about it. This forest has a sense of evil about it. This dungeon has a sense of evil about it. He might actually be right about the last one, but he sees evil in literally everything, and as such, Ajantis fundamentally cannot be in parties with evil characters. So alignment also matters because it influences things like conflict. Ajantis is in direct conflict with any evil party member. He will literally, after a certain amount of time spent in parties with evil characters, he will try to attack them and throw hands with them and try to kill them. You can stop him. Basically, Ajantis' works a little differently than other conflicts because you will literally just see in the chat bar that it says Ajantis attacks whatever evil party member you have, and you can stop him by like clicking on him and telling him to do something else, which will give you a minor reprieve, but it's not a fix, and he will try it again, and as such, it is completely impractical to have Ajantis in any party with evil people. Right? It is bad enough managing reputation, right? If you have party members, if you have parties with different reputations, you have to manage your reputation, because if you have evil and good characters in the same party, if your reputation gets too high, the evil characters leave. If it gets too low, the good characters leave. And this is not so important in Baldur's Gate 1. It's more important in Baldur's Gate 2. There are two... So the canon party for Baldur's Gate 1, and I'll discuss the canon party in Baldur's Gate 2 in that video, but the canon party in Baldur's Gate 1 is the Ballspawn, Imoen, Jaheira, Khalid, Minsc, and Dynaheir. And that's a good party. So you don't really have to worry about reputation so long as it doesn't get too low. But you do have to manage these things, and you have to manage the alignments of your party members, and as such, you literally cannot have Ajantis in a party with evil characters, which means the parties that he is usable in is far more limited than it otherwise would be. And as such, that severely hinders him. It really limits his usefulness. And from a strictly combat standpoint, like I said, that 17 strength is great. That 16 con is great. That 13 dexterity is brutal. And it's brutal because I'm going to take an enhanced edition focus for most of these things, I will admit, when I'm talking about things like proficiencies. Because he has proficiencies in bastard swords. There is only one bastard. You can only get up to +1 with bastard swords in Baldur's Gate 1. And one of the few +1 bastard swords that is in the game is gotten through Dorn's quest. And you cannot get Dorn with Ajantis. So, and because of the low dexterity that Ajantis has, you're really going to want to keep him with a shield. Yes, he does have a point in two-handed swords. And there are a lot of there's a +3 two-handed sword in Baldur's Gate 1, thanks to Tales of the Sword Coast. But it's really difficult to have him use a two-handed sword and keep him alive. Now, he is, like I said, he will hit hard. He is a good sword arm. But you'll want to get him early, and you can get him early, which matters a lot, which will allow you to have more impact on how you actually skill him. So if you get him early, and then you can maybe put points into longsword or axe or whatever you want to use, where there's more options. But as far as what he comes skilled with, it's a bit difficult. It also means he's not a dual wield candidate, because you're just not going to have enough points for weapons that he can use reasonably well, and to then put points into weapon style. So he's a bit limited, but for what he does do, if you want to throw the bracers of dexterity on him, which will give him a dexterity of 18, that will make him more capable of using a two-handed sword. But he's just a little unfortunately served by his stat line and his proficiencies as much as he can be a good fighter. Personality-wise, he is literally exactly what you think of when you think of a goodly do-gooder paladin, where everything is all about smiting evil all the time, and that's all he wants to do and all he cares about, and so on and so forth. I find him to be a bit much, a bit grating, but outside of the evil party members, he gets along with basically everyone. So, he's very good in his role, which is just basically a sword arm. I find him to be a bit grating from a personality standpoint, and I find him a bit difficult to use in terms of the parties he can actually be put in, so I put him in B tier. Moving on, we have Alora, chaotic good halfling thief, found in the Hall of Wonders in Baldur's Gate, with a stat line of 8 strength, 19 dexterity, 12 constitution, 14 intelligence, 7 wisdom, and 10 charisma. Alora is C tier. So as I said, I am not going to pretend. I understand that technically, kind of like the class kits, right? That you can use any party member you want. And you can use, just like you can use any class kit or class kit you want, and you will absolutely get through the game. That is 100% true. But I am not going to pretend that that means that all party members are great, right? Like, certain guides seem to just find ways to tell you how great every party member is, which is just not realistic if you're playing a game in a practical sense, and Alora is not that great, and I'll tell you why. It actually has less to do with her stat score. So yes, the 8 strength is awful, but the 19 dexterity means she's very good with the bows that she's skilled in. The 12 constitution also means she gets some bonuses, the unique short race bonuses from constitution. Alora is C tier because she's so impractical. So you can't realistically find Alora until you're about 70% through the game in the Hall of Wonders. And you need a thief. There are 6 thieves in Baldur's Gate 1, which means you have 5 other choices, one of whom follows you out of the very first area of the game and forces herself upon you in terms of joining your party. So there is just no reason to wait so long to get Alora. The other problem is the fact that Alora, character-wise, is a pickpocket, and as such has dumped a lot of points in pickpocket. Now, that is not to say that pickpocket is a useless thieving ability. There are a lot of instances where you do want to pickpocket, but it is 1000% the least useful thieving ability. And because of the fact that she has put so many points in pickpocket, this is her stat line when you find her is move silently, hide in shadows, or move silently and hide in shadows at 35, open locks at 95, 90 in pickpocket, 20 in find traps, set traps at 10, and 10 in detect illusions. What this means is in the enhanced editions, when you recruit new party members, you usually have at least like 2 levels to mess around with. that means you're going to have to put basically all your points into find traps, because she's just not going to find traps. Having to do that as well, because she has put so many points in pickpocket, means you're not really ever going to be able to get her to move silently or hide in shadows. Although, what are you going to do? She has an 8 strength. She can hardly carry the weapons, because 8 strength means what? You can hold 45 pounds, whatever. She can hardly carry the weapons she would want to backstab with. Right? So that's fine, but you're going to have to basically dump all your points into find traps, which, considering how much game is going to be left, means you're not really going to have time to get set traps anywhere. Detect illusions isn't that big a deal in Baldur's Gate 1, because there just aren't that many illusions you need to detect. But you probably want set traps, and you're not going to be able to realistically do that, because you're going to have to spend at least 2 levels making up for the fact that she has dumped basically most her points into pickpocket. Now, she does come with, as far as her thieving ability, she does come with a unique item. It's worn as a ring, called the Rabbit's Foot, which is insane. It's a fantastic item. Only she can use it. It gives her a -2 bonus to her armor class, a -2 bonus to her saving throws, as well as +10 to every one of her thief skills, and most importantly, +2 luck. Now, I am not going to explain here how luck works, because it is not like a flat +2 to all of your rolls, but it does make your rolls better as far as the range. Again, I'm not explaining that properly. There is a fantastic article on the Baldur's Gate wiki that explains it. I will link that in the description. You can go read it. This is probably the best unique item in the game. And again, it does help her thieving skills. The armor bonuses and the blanket bonus to saving throws is fantastic. I talked at length in the class guide about how important saving throws and whatnot are. That's very important, but again, it's just so hard to actually use Alora. Even if you haul ass to Baldur's Gate, you need a thief. Like, yes, someone like me that has played these games a million times, you can get, because I know where the traps are, you can get through the game without the traps, but or without a thief, but it's so impractical to actually do so. The only way you can realistically use Alora is that if you take Imoen, and then when you leave Imoen as a thief, and then once you get to Alora, you duel Imoen to a mage. That's really the only practical way you can use Alora, and as such, I think she's C tier. I also think her personality is annoying. She's so happy. She's so happy. And I don't mind cheery characters. Like, Imoen's cheery, and I don't dislike Imoen. But she feels almost out of place with how happy she is 24/7. Like, there is no other character really in either game that does this. So I put her in C tier. I should honestly kind of want to put her in C tier, or D tier, but I'll leave it at C. I'll be nice. I'm the giver. But moving on, next we have, let me pull my notes back up here. Next we have, great job by me. I'm glad I caught that. I got things out of order here in terms of alphabetically. Baeloth the Entertainer. So Baeloth is S tier for a couple of reasons. So he is a chaotic evil drow sorcerer. Oh, I should have mentioned, Alora doesn't have any quests or conflicts because you find her so late. She doesn't care. Alora has no quests or conflicts. Whatever. Baeloth, chaotic evil drow sorcerer with a stat line. You find him in the Larswood with a stat line of 12 strength, 14 dex, 16 con, 19 intelligence, 12 wisdom, and 16 charisma. So you might say, because it's funny, there are some glaring issues with his stat line. The 14 dex, you'd like at least another point. The 16 con is good, that it gives him the maximum hit points that an arcane spellcaster can receive, or at least a mage can receive. 16 charisma, not great in terms of his, that's the stat for sorcerers. The reason Baeloth is so good is that so the way you recruit Baeloth, your ball spawn has to have 10,000 XP. And Baeloth, you can then go recruit him. So that means like level 4-ish level 4 for every, not quite level 5 for most classes. And you can then go find him in the Lars Wood. The reason Baeloth is so good, one, he comes with a ton of great equipment, including the robe of the evil Archmage. But also, when you recruit him, no matter what, he will be level 6. And that is seriously valuable for spellcasters, because that's 40,000 experience that you now don't have to get, right? He's just there. And as such, he becomes something of a crutch character. When you recruit him, he will have 3rd and 4th level spells. You can do things like Fireball, you can do things like Stone Skin, you could do things... Basically, you will have access to spells. If you go and get him, like, as soon as you hit 10,000 XP, you have access to spells that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get access to until you reach Baldur's Gate. And that is insanely valuable for the areas of the game that you will be going through at that point. He also has 50% magic resist as a result of being a drow, which is great. I don't need to explain how good magic resist is. It's not as great in Baldur's Gate 1 as it is in Baldur's Gate 2, but it's still great. And he has a really fun personality. He's sort of bombastic and all over the place. Mark Meer, his voice actor, does a fantastic job of voicing him. He doesn't have any conflicts except Ajantis. He's always talking, but his ability to serve almost again as a crutch character makes him S tier. He's fantastic. Obviously, just his repertoire, the items he comes with, he's a lot of fun. Like I said, if you want to use him, he's the only sorcerer recruitable NPC in either game. And if you want to use him as like be keeping tabs on your party member, and as soon as you hit 10,000 XP, go and get him. I find him to be a lot of fun, and he's really, really great in his role. Moving along to Branwen, the human priest of Tempest. She's actually, so this is an important distinction. She is a priest of Tempest only in the enhanced edition. In the original game, obviously, there were no class kits. So she was just a normal cleric. Found at the carnival outside of Nashkel with a 13 strength, 16 dex, 15 con, 9 intelligence, wisdom of 16, and 13 charisma. She also has the unique ability to summon a spiritual hammer. Now, there is something of a quest available, associated with her, where you just have to free her from stone. It's really simple. You just buy the stone to flesh scroll from the guy standing in front of her, and you cast it on her, and she is very thankful and will join your party. Branwen, I'm going to give Branwen... I want to give her a B, but I think her... So, in original Baldur's Gate, Branwen is a B. In the enhanced edition, she's an A. And that's because the Priest of Tempest actually allows her to... The Priest of Tempest class kit allows her to make up for her one real downside, which is her somewhat lacking strength, right? She's got good dex, got good con, but her low strength always sort of hurt her a little bit because it meant she couldn't load up with certain plate mails and whatever else. With the Priest of Tempest, she is able to, at least for combat, right? She's still going to want the Ankeg plate because it's not lasting all time, but the Priest of Tempest giving her Holy Power, which boosts her strength. You cast Holy Power, you cast a Spiritual Hammer. Branwen will be a formidable frontline fighter in the context of Baldur's Gate 1 for you. She also gets some extra first and second level spells thanks to her 16 wisdom. She has the highest wisdom of any cleric in Baldur's Gate 1. The reality of clerics in Baldur's Gate 1 is that most of them are mid. And honestly, that kind of applies to Branwen too. I do think it is crazy how big a buff her being a Priest of Tempest actually is for her in the Enhanced Edition. She does have a conflict with Tiax, the crazy, chaotic, evil cleric thief gnome, where she will eventually try to kill him, so keep that in mind. Personality-wise, she is the sort of warrior priestess, which is kind of ironic considering her strength. She's a really suitable, she plays her role well as a cleric. She doesn't cause any, again, outside of TX, she will dislike people, but she never really causes any problems. She doesn't have much of a personality, for being totally honest. She's a little bland. If you're looking for a cleric, she is the cleric most suited to good parties, because Viconia obviously is Viconia, is an evil drow, and and TX is insane. And Yeslik, it takes a little while to get him. So if you're looking for a cleric early in the game as a good party, this is who you want to go with. She's definitely helped by the enhanced edition overall. I almost have no opinion on Branwen. Again, I don't find her super interesting. I don't necessarily dislike her. Like you said, I like that she plays her role well. But other than that, it just kind of is what it is. She is a great cleric if you need one. Or at least she is the cleric best suited to the role for good parties. Coran. S tier. S tier. Now, Coran is S tier because he breaks all the rules. Now, this is because Coran is an elven fighter thief, right? Chaotic good elven fighter thief with a stat line of 14 strength, 20 dex, that's where he breaks the rules, 12 constitution, 14 intelligence, 9 wisdom, and 16 charisma. Not only does he have a 20 dexterity, which the maximum should be 19 as an elf, but he also has 3 points in longbow, which should also be illegal. It should be a maximum of 2. Because of this, combined with his elven racial bonuses to long blades and bows, he is just the best archer in the game, bar none. He is such a good archer that, frankly, you might say, like, well, if he's going to be your thief, isn't it hard to wait that long? You don't even need to use him as a thief. He legitimately is so good at shooting people that you can just ignore the thief part of his class, if you so choose, and just use him as a fighter with a bow. And that is a totally reasonable thing to do. It takes a little while to get him because you have to wait until you get to the Cloakwood. He does also have a quest involved where you have to go kill a wyvern with him and then bring the head of it to someone, but it's a type of quest that you would probably be doing anyway because you're exploring those areas. But he is, bar none, the best archer in the game. Give him a bow, give him, the dead eye or the dead shot. It is a little awkward because he can't equip composite longbows, but if you give him, make sure I got the right name, it's dead something. The dead shot, which is found at the bandit camp, you give him that, he's, which gives you, it's +2. I mean, he's just going to mow things down. And that even bypasses the issue that that's not a composite longbow, so his strength doesn't even matter there. And even his constitution, right, which normally you'd say his constitution is tough because he's not getting any bonus to his health. Yeah, that's not a problem because he's not frontlining. He's in the back with a bow. And bows are so good in the first Baldur's Gate because it is a lower level adventure and there's less missile deflection and protections and stone skins and whatever. Like, he can just mow people down, and will, if you give him, again, the best bow you have with the best arrows. He will just absolutely wreck shop. His wyvern, the quest to find a wyvern does have a time limit, although it's a pretty long one. It's like 2 weeks of in-game time. A lot of BG1 quests have time limits, if we're being totally honest. He is really good. He actually reappears as well in Baldur's Gate 2, though he is not recruitable. Ajantis reappears in Baldur's Gate 2 as well. Branwen sort of reappears in Baldur's Gate 2, just in the tutorial. So you'll also get a small little cameo from him then, but for what he does for you in the first game, bro is cracked at being an archer. The best archer in the game, unless you are playing an archer as your character. Personality-wise, he will flirt with literally every female character in the game. It's a bit much. It's a bit much, but it never really gets like weird or anything like that. It's just, he is into Safana specifically, and that actually carries into the second game. But he's affable. He, like I said, he gets along with most people. And he doesn't have any major conflicts, so it's easy to slot him into basically any party. If you're looking for an archer, you literally can't do better. S tier. On to the first of the Enhanced Edition NPCs, we will be talking about Dorn. I will be discussing the Enhanced Edition NPCs. I will not be discussing the Siege of Dragonspears NPCs. Maybe we'll have to do an addendum one day, just because the Siege of... I don't know, the Siege of Dragonspears NPCs, they occupy, like, a completely different game, in my opinion. So, Dorn is found when you travel... So, he's a neutral evil, half-orc blackguard who is found. You have to first find him in the Friendly Arm, you have to speak to him, and then you truly find him on the way to the mines. And he has a 19 strength, 16 dexterity, 14 constitution, 10 intelligence, 15 wisdom, 16 charisma. So I'm going to put Dorn in A tier. Now, he's A tier for a couple of reasons. One, he's got a great class kit. Some of the Blackguard's special abilities, the drain health one, are very useful early on. Aura of Despair can be very early, again, with some of the lower level enemies that you deal with in Baldur's Gate 1. He uses a greatsword, and actually comes with a greatsword, and that 19 strength means he will hit as hard as anyone else. The 16 dex also means he gets some bonuses to dexterity or armor class. The 14 constitution, meaning he gets no health bonus, is brutal. The one halfway decent thing, though, is that he becomes a prime candidate because he's not losing any health from it. He becomes a prime candidate to use the Claw of Khazgaroth. And that will help boost his armor class a bit, especially against missiles, which will help him stay alive a bit. Obviously, that is a difficult item to use for most fighters because you want to use it on fighters, but also because of the way that it reduces constitution, it also reduces hit points. That is not the case with Dorn, so he's a prime candidate for that item. Part of the reason why I have him at A tier, despite the fact that he does have a lot of conflicts, he will conflict with, obviously, Ajantis, he will conflict with Yeslik, he will conflict with a lot of people. He actually technically conflicts with Shar-Teel, but they just want to fight because they're both just addicted to combat. The reason why I say he's A tier instead of like B tier like Ajantis is, like all of the other Infinity Enhanced Edition NPCs, he has a lot of quests. And that gets you a lot of great items. Albruin, which again is one of the but it's one of the Bastard Sword +1s you can get that Ajantis would love if they could hang out together. You get a Girdle of Ernst, which gives him some physical resistances. And these are all done as you carry out a quest basically to, frankly, murder the people that wronged him in his past life or in his past endeavors. You also get a Suit of Elven Chain, which is great for thieves and specifically bards if you have any as a result of his quest. And also, I believe his quest is the only way to get a magical Wakizashi +1. Yeah, there is one. It is the only one. So if you're on your 90th playthrough and you want to use a Wakizashi +1 for whatever reason, go ahead. He's also romanceable, which plays actually directly. He will romance any companion, regardless of race or gender or alignment, because Dorn is addicted to power, and that plays directly into his personality. He does not really care about who you are. He does not love you for who you are. He loves you because you are strong, and to him that is sexy. You do lose 2 points of reputation when he joins the party. I forgot to mention that happens with Baeloth as well. Overall, again, his conflicts make him a bit harder to use, but with what you get from his quests, what you get from his abilities, to me, is A tier. And listen, his personality is, again, like I said, he just has that thirst for power, which is fine. He's very overt. We'll put it like that. And I don't necessarily dislike him. I actually think the cutscene where you meet him and he basically, kills some of the mooks, I think that cutscene's awesome. I think, unfortunately, in comparison to some of the other companions, he winds up, again, his personality is what it is. It feels like maybe they sort of box themselves in a bit as far as his banter, as far as who he is as a character. That's how I feel, at least. Moving on. Dynaheir. I'm going to give Dynaheir an A. Lawful good, human invoker found at the Knoll Stronghold with a strength of 11, dexterity of 13, constitution of 16, intelligence of 17, wisdom of 15, and charisma of 12. She does also have the unique ability to cast slow poison for whatever reason. And her wisdom score, something that doesn't get talked about a lot, is that having a 15 wisdom actually increases her lore. Now, having a high lore means you are able to identify things really without actually needing to identify them, without having to cast a spell. Not a huge deal for someone like me who has played these games a million times, but a big deal for someone that may not have. Being able to sort of uncover things is really, really valuable. Now, Dynaheir is where I'm going to talk about something. I should have actually talked about it with Branwen, because it technically happens with Branwen first, but to me, it's more ridiculous with Dynaheir that you can even do this, but I will discuss it here because you should not be doing this. The laws of everything will dictate that I must. So Dynaheir, there are a number of books in these games that will grant you permanent stat bonuses. So a permanent bonus to strength, a permanent bonus to dexterity, a permanent bonuses to constitution, and so on and so forth. There is one of each for all of these except for wisdom, where for some reason there are 3 books that increase your wisdom. Because Dynaheir has a 15 wisdom, if you give her 2 tomes of wisdom, you can then dual class her into a cleric mage. You should not be doing this. The fact that I see this talked about as something that is a realistic or practical thing that anyone should be doing, to me, is completely ridiculous. For starters, you never actually want to stop mage levels. You never want to, whenever you're dual classing, there's a reason why every dual class is usually from a thief or fighter. Because you never want to stop gaining levels in whatever your spellcasting class is. So, yes, and then there's also the problem that if you give her the 2 tomes of wisdom, that means you're not giving them to your character, which is the only person you should be using the tomes on. Because when you give them to the other party members, they don't transfer to the next game. So if you give Dynaheir 2 tomes of wisdom, that is just wasted. She's dead in the second game and wouldn't transfer over anyway. It's the same thing with Branwen. She doesn't appear in the second game. So it's such an impractical thing to do. And again, the fact that I see it brought up as like a real thing, I find so completely ridiculous. And it's not something you should do. But you can, if you're on your millionth playthrough and you just need to spice it up a little bit. The reason I give Dynaheir an A instead of like an S is because, not because she doesn't have wisdom of 18, which means she doesn't get 9th level spells, doesn't matter in Baldur's Gate 1. It's more so because with that 11 strength and 13 dexterity, she really can't do anything outside of casting spells. She really can't make hay with any missile weapons or a sling. And in Baldur's Gate 1, because it is lower level, you can really do some work with wizards having missile weapons. She really can't make great use of either of them. So as such, when she's not casting spells, she really can't do a whole lot, right? And that just obviously limits a bit what she's able to do. So just keep that in mind, but she has a great, she has plenty of intelligence. The 2 points bonus to health from her constitution is also great. She has a decent spell selection to start with. She starts with Magic Missile and Burning Hands, both of which is great. She also, for the most part, she does conflict with Edwin for the obvious reason that, so she has a quest associated with her, but the quest is to either save her or kill her. If you kill her, she's obviously not in your party, and if you save her, you're not going to have Edwin in your party. So the fact that she conflicts with Edwin is fine. You're never realistically going to have her in the party. As far as her personality, she is basically she's on what's called like a rite of passage, and she's from the, I'm going to say it wrong, You know you've heard Minsc say it. She has something of a forward personality, but she's not like super bossy. She gets along, again, she gets along with most people. The only person she has a real conflict with is Edwin. The extra spell from being an invoker, the specialist mage, is great. Invoker is a really, really great class, and in the enhanced edition, she's no longer barred from conjuration spells. Invoker is one of the better mage kits, although they're all pretty good. She just works. If you want, she's a great mage for a good party. She's got decent banters. She doesn't cause any problems. I've used her plenty of times. Gets the job done as well as you could hope. A tier. I've always found it ironic that the man that's trying to kill her is the next person on the list, which is Mr. Edwin. Should I try to do an Edwin impression? Edwin Odysseron, or something like that. Edwin talks like this. He is he talks like this. And lawful evil human conjurer. Now, he is the first NPC we've come across that will reappear in Baldur's Gate 2, though obviously we will discuss that when we get to Baldur's Gate 2. He is a Red Wizard of Thay, and he is very smart and loves to tell you about how smart he is and how much he believes he is better than everyone else, because he is a Red Wizard of Thay, and you are not. You find him in Nashkel by the bridge. He has conflicts, obviously, with Dynaheir, and also Ajantis, obviously, and then also Neera, because Neera is literally being hunted by red mages, and Edwin being a red mage, they are not. There is a way you can get them in the party together, but it doesn't really work. There are various workarounds for all these things, but it doesn't really work in that respect. So, Edwin's stats: 9 strength, 10 dexterity, 16 constitution, 18 intelligence, 9 wisdom, 10 charisma. Edwin, in my opinion, is S tier. Now, you might say, looking at that stat line, why is Dynaheir A tier, Edwin's S tier? Because Edwin is just as useless with that 9 strength and 10 dexterity as Dynaheir when it comes to doing anything but casting spells. Edwin, because he comes with a special, instead of getting slow poison as a special ability, which plenty of other people can use, he gets what's called Edwin's Amulet, which gives him 1 additional spell per level. This, when you couple it with the Ring of Wizardry, which doubles your first level spells, means that Edwin will have so many magic missiles that you realistically never need to actually do anything but cast magic missile with him. In the original game, you could wear 2 wings of wizardry, and you would literally have, I believe, over 20 magic missiles on a given day. So Edwin is so good at casting spells. He is so good at learning spells, because again, with that 18 intelligence, his chance to actually scribe scrolls is much greater, that he is the best arcane spellcaster without question in Baldur's Gate 1. And as such, I give him an S. He is a little more difficult to use on virtue of being evil, but the sheer spellcasting capability that he possesses outdoes anything else that anything that any other character is going to be able to do. And personality-wise, he is a character you love to hate. Because he is so, his ego is the size of Faerun. He believes he is that he is that dude. What's funny is that he does not actually conflict with Minsc. So he only conflicts with Dynaheir. So if Dynaheir dies and you remove her from the party and then you go get Edwin, you can actually keep Minsc and Edwin in the party together, because Minsc having an issue with Edwin is actually tied to Dynaheir, which is kind of funny when you really think about it. But Edwin is as good at what he does as he says he is. And as such, I give him an S. I like Edwin. I love his personality. I love the fact that he is not as competent. You'll see this more in Baldur's Gate 2, but he is not quite as competent as he likes to believe he is. And I love that the other characters, as far as the banter they have with each other, they give him all sorts of nonsense, because they know it's an overinflated ego. And I really like Edwin. For me, he's S tier. Eldoth, D. So, neutral evil bard, found further on in Cloakwood, with a 16 strength, 12 dexterity, 15 constitution, 13 intelligence, 10 wisdom, 16 charisma. So I should have mentioned this with Dynaheir, but Eldoth is a pair. He pairs with Ski, or Sky, or however the hell you say her name. Ski, I always say Ski. And that means they cannot be separated, meaning you either have to have both of them in the party or neither of them in the party. Now, Eldoth has a bit of a workaround to this. If you never go to Northwest Baldur's Gate with him, which is pretty much impossible, but he will never, basically the timer to trigger to have him join with Ski will never activate. So you can just keep him if you're so inclined, but you're not going to want to because Eldoth sucks at everything. My opinion of bards is kind of well known. I don't hate them as much as monks, but I don't love them. I especially don't love them in Baldur's Gate 1, where everything is lower level and you don't have as much access to spells. He is a decent face because of that 16 charisma for evil parties. He is so useless. I remember, I honestly almost feel nothing about this character because I find him to be completely useless in combat, and I find him to be really boring in terms of his character. He is just kind of a lech who is leeching off Ski because she's rich and famous, and he is awful in combat. He has a unique ability to create poisoned arrows, and that's neat because, like I said, I've talked about how good ranged weapons are in Baldur's Gate 1, and using poisoned arrows is great, but because he has a 12, and listen, Eldoth is skilled in bows, that 12 dexterity, the dude can't hit anything. Like, so he has 16 strength, but he can't really frontline for you because he's a bard, and he's not a blade or anything like that. And he has a 12 dexterity, which means when you give him a bow, he can't hit jack. Like, he's just... I am totally... I can't stand him. I think he to me is one of a few... There are a few, in my opinion, truly worthless characters in Baldur's Gate 1. And then when you go to the fact that you do have to wait a good while to actually get him, you know, because Cloakwood isn't like super far into the game, but it's decent. You know, you're getting there. He just... I feel nothing about Eldoth. I think were he removed from the game, I don't think the game would miss him. He does not do anything particularly well. He is, again, one of those companions that you decide to use for funsies, as I did when you're on your quintillionth playthrough. I mean, I guess, in fairness, if you took, like, Coran, and you kept having Eldoth make poison arrows, and then you just gave those poison arrows to Coran, that would be sick. That'd be cool. But Eldoth on his own just sucks. And he doesn't cast spells as well as you want him to. He doesn't... I mean, I guess the Bard song's nice, or can be nice, but... Honestly, that might be what he's best suited for. Just stand there and play the song. But it just... I feel nothing about Eldoth. Whatever. There's no quests. His only real conflict is with Shar-Teel. Shar-Teel finds him so annoying and insufferable that she will eventually do you the favor and kill him. And she will win that fight, I promise you. But yeah, again, if you were removed from the game, I don't think anyone would miss him. Faldorn, one of 2 druids in Baldur's Gate 1, true neutral, as all druids are. And in my opinion, should be. Found also in the Cloakwood, she has the unique ability to summon a Dreadwolf. And Dreadwolves are actually pretty legit as far as spawns go, because they're fast, they have some resistances, you know, they're immune to a lot of they're immune to a lot of the things that do in most other summons, which is basically area of effect. So it's a legitimately useful summon. One of the few useful summons you'll ever see in either of these games, considering that Baldur's Gate is a lower level adventure. Being able to summon a Dreadwolf is legit. And if you look at her stat line, right, her biggest, so Faldorn, I give her like a B. Again, that Dreadwolf is strong. If you look at her stat line, 12 strength, 15 dex, 11 con, 10 intelligence, 16 wisdom, 15 charisma. That means effectively she can only be a spellcasting druid. She cannot really do any frontlining for you because she does not hit hard enough and she gets blown over by a stiff breeze. Here's the one decent thing about her. She is the only druid, because Jaheira can't get there. Jaheira is the only other druid that can be recruited. And because Jaheira is a dual-class fighter druid, multi-class fighter druid, she can't get to 5th level spells. Faldorn can. Faldorn is the only way companion in this game that can get to 5th level spells, which means she can do things like Insect Plague, which is crazy in Baldur's Gate 1. Crazy, crazy, crazy. She can also do things like get obviously the bigger summons, the bigger healing, right? She is a great spellcaster. That is all she can do. And in my opinion, druid spellcasting is good. It is not as good as arcane spellcasting. And like generally in my experience in these games, you need a little more out of your druids. It's why I have always said that I think fighter druids are just the best way to play druids. And as such, because she's so limited by her stat line, yes, she will cast spells for you, especially late in the game, that you otherwise would not be able to. But this is not like a Baeloth situation. Baeloth is so good because he's casting spells that you otherwise at that point in the game would not be able to cast. When you're getting your 5th level spells with Faldorn, you're going to be in the late endgame. So yes, those spells are still very useful, but they do not allow you to sort of like just bring certain parts of the game to heal as you otherwise would. So I think she's a very interesting character. She doesn't have any quests associated with her. She does have a conflict with Jaheira because they're like fundamentally different druids and they kind of come to hate each other. So you have to keep track of that and it will cause problems. Listen, she's good. She is good. I just think druids on their own, even in this context, are not strong enough to really carry their water. She's also kind of annoying because she's like an extremist. And it's funny because she makes sense in the way that she actually wants to destroy the Iron Throne, which is a direct, coincides exactly with the plot, which is great, but she is just very extreme, but she does get along with most people, again, basically except Jaheira. She gets along with Kivan, she gets along with Minsc, because she just is a little, for me, she's a little off-putting. And I think that was capitalized on because she shows up in the second game and you quickly kill her. Because again, she's like a weird extremist. She's a member of the Shadow Druids because the Shadow Druids are meant to, she really don't believe in balance. She don't believe in civilization. That's what the Shadow Druids are. She don't believe in people. And that definitely comes across, which makes her just feel a little weird, all in all. Like I said, B tier. The fact that she can cast Insect Plague almost boosts her to A. If her stats were a little bit better, I think I'd make her A tier. Her stats are just so, and obviously only having a 16 wisdom, that means beyond 1st and 2nd level, she's not really getting any bonuses. Like, she's good. The Dreadwolf's fun, but I'm gonna go with B tier. Garrick. Can I give him an F? I mean, that's not objective, but God, I hate Garrick. I hate Garrick with every fiber of my being. Again, because I'm not a big fan of bards, and Garrick is annoying. profoundly annoying. Chaotic neutral bard found in Baragost with a strength of 14, dex of 16, constitution of 9, intelligence of 13, wisdom of 14, charisma of 15. He does have a quest associated with him where you have to go help him with Silky, the thespian extraordinaire. You know, you have to go help him with Silky and then murder Silky right in front of him. Then he decides that he doesn't really care that you just murdered Silky. And he comes along for the ride. He's bad at everything. He's bad at everything. He's got a bad strength. His dexterity's fine. It makes him okay with the crossbow, but he can't cast any spells for you that are really, like, noteworthy. He falls into, there are a couple of characters that based on their stat line, which is funny. He has a stat line of 81, but none of them are where they, like, again, he's not a blade, so he can't do that sort of thing. You can't suit him up with Elven Chainmail and start having him swing. He's fine, but there are way better archers. Again, he just winds up, like, what's the best use for him? Probably standing around singing the song. And the Bard song, especially early on, being that Baldur's Gate is a low-level adventure, is just not that great. Like, it takes time, and you don't have that time in Baldur's Gate 1. There's also the fact that, like I said, he is the most grating, annoying. He's constantly lost in love. He tries to love ski. He tries to, like, F. Again, is that objective? Not really. But I just don't think bards are good enough. I don't think general bards are good enough in Baldur's Gate 1. And I don't think he brings enough stat-wise. He doesn't bring enough spellcasting. He just, like Eldoth, the last time I used Garrick, I remember thinking he felt like a waste of a party slot. Because there are just people that will do everything that he could possibly do for you way better. I kind of hate that I don't have more to say about him. But I don't. So, it's... honestly, the most interesting thing about Garrick might be that he shows up in both Siege of Dragonspear and the second game getting turned down by people. And that's his whole personality, that he's like this love-struck loser, basically, and he's got the personality of sandpaper. And I'm going to stop dunking on him because I think you get the point. He's probably D tier like Eldoth, although at least Eldoth... no, he's F. He doesn't even create cool arrows like Eldoth. So at least Eldoth does that. No, he's F. F. Loser. Imoen. Imoen. S tier, actually, believe it or not. Neutral good thief, found in Candlekeep, with no quests, no conflicts, because she's very tied tightly to you. The ball spawn. So it's funny. So I'm gonna rephrase myself to A. I'm gonna give myself an A, or Imoen an A, and I'll tell you why. So Imoen, and I'll talk about her stat line in a moment. Imoen is a curious companion because she did not exist in the early part of Baldur's Gate. The reason she was implemented late into the stages of the game is because there were no good thieves. The only thieves you could get were, like, early in the game, were Montaron, who's evil, Safana, who's chaotic neutral. Right? Is Safana chaotic neutral? Yep, chaotic neutral. So there were no good thieves, realistically, for a party. And obviously, having thieves are important. If you're a new player in the game, you need a thief. You need to be able to detect traps and do things like that. So they basically cobbled Imoen together at, like, the 11th hour. And as such, the reason I give her an A is because, well, I know a lot of people find Imoen annoying. I don't. Yes, she's cheerful, but she's not like Alora where it's in like a comical sense. My biggest problem, the reason I give her an A instead of an S, is because she actually doesn't have that many like relationships or conversations with people, because considering she was made so late into the game's development, they didn't have time to write it and implement it all. So she really doesn't have any banters. She kind of just like, Imoen pretty much just joins your party at, as soon as you leave Candlekeep, and then shuts up for the rest of the game. Which sucks, because obviously a huge part of these companions are what they bring to your party, are the conversations we get to see them have, right? And Imoen is just basically completely excluded from all of that, which again, sucks. The one saving grace for Imoen, she doesn't have any conflict, she doesn't have any, quests, like I said. The biggest thing about Imoen is that she, with the stat line, so she has 9 strength, which is awful, means she can't backstab. She has 18 dexterity, 16 constitution, 17 intelligence, wisdom of 11, and charisma of 16. So she's actually a really good face for good parties as well. The biggest thing about Imoen is that she can, and oftentimes is, duel to a mage. And she's a very good, you don't have to spend any tomes on her. She is a realistic option to duel to a mage. And she can, and the good thing about that is because you get Imoen so early. If you decide you want to go get Safana, or maybe you're playing a ball spawn thief, you can just literally immediately, if you don't care about Imoen's thief skills, and you don't want to backstab with it, which again is borderline impossible anyway, because she has a strength of goddamn 9, you can duel her to a mage literally immediately. As soon as you get her, and that gives you tons of control over what she actually does, the spells she learns, and yada yada yada. Which is really, really important. You can also wait a bit if you would like to wait until you get someone like Coran. That's an option as well. So you have a lot of optionality with when you actually turn her into a mage. But because of that 17 intelligence, she is a very, very strong mage. The fact that she can't get 9th level spells doesn't matter in Baldur's Gate 1. And you basically, Imoen, more than any other companion in the game, really, gives you a lot of options. As far, you could just leave her as a thief and she'll be a great thief because she's got that 18 dex. She can be good with a bow in the back line. Or you can duel her into a mage. She also, that 16 con means she has some decent hit points. She's a very, very, very strong character. She would, if she had the same sort of relationships and discussions and conversations like every other character, she would be S tier. But because of that, I have to bump her down a notch in my opinion. But she's as far as her character, she is unbelievably strong. And like I said, I've always liked Imoen. I always thought Imoen got a bad rap. Gets weird. There's a certain mod out there. We won't talk about it. Lets you do certain things with Imoen that you really shouldn't want to do with Imoen for obvious reasons. If you know anything about the games. Like I said, we're not going to talk about that here. Moving on. Gotta get off that topic real quick. Moving on to Jaheira, who I am going to give, this might be a little surprising, I'm going to actually give Jaheira a B. I think Jaheira is B tier. Now, I think Jaheira is B tier because, so yes, I do think fighter druids are the best way to play druids. She is a half-elven and true neutral fighter druid found at the Friendly Arm Inn with her husband Khalid. The reason I give Jaheira a B for this game, Baldur's Gate 1, is because, as I said, her being a fighter druid means she can't, because of the XP limits, cannot get 5th level spells in this game. There's also the fact that, due to the fact that she has so her stat line is 15 strength, which is not bad, 14 dexterity, 17 constitution, 10 intelligence, 14 wisdom, 15 charisma. That means she not only does not get any bonuses to spellcasting from her wisdom, she does not get any bonuses to armor class, which means it can be a bit difficult to tank with her. She does have decent health, owed to that 17 constitution. The problem with Jaheira is that being a fighter druid, she needs levels and levels and levels, especially as a multi-class fighter druid, and she just simply does not get those in Baldur's Gate. There is also the problem that her weapon proficiency is it's kind of like an Ajantis situation, right? It's not like, so she needs her weapon proficiencies, right? Like, this is not a situation with Faldorn. Like, I didn't even mention Faldorn's weapon proficiencies because they don't matter because Faldorn is useless in combat. Jaheira's weapon proficiencies do matter because she needs to benefit, in order to be an effective character, she needs to benefit from her fighter levels. Well, her initial weapon proficiencies are 2 points in club, a point in quarterstaff, and a point in sling. That's awful. There are, in the original Baldur's Gate, no magical clubs. Now, there are some added in the enhanced edition. But generally, for being totally honest, you don't really want to use clubs. They're just not great. And even as far as magic clubs go, there aren't many options. So that means you're going to have to skill her in something else, likely scimitar. There are decent scimitars, but that means it's going to take a while before she's able to use those scimitars to the best of her ability, which would be 2 points. From a strictly combat standpoint, Jaheira just never reaches a point in the first Baldur's Gate where she's able to be like really, truly effective, which is a shame. She's still a good character, don't get me wrong. Like, she's not going to be like a lodestone. She's not Garrick or Eldoth. Like, she's not useless. She's still casting divine spells. She still gets things like Armor of Faith. She still gets things like healing spells, right? But she's just not as... She's not as good. Like, honestly, Jaheira, in my opinion, is one of the best companions in Baldur's Gate 2 because she reaches that sort of power fantasy, endgame fantasy, whatever. She just doesn't do that here. She just literally cannot do that here. And as such, she winds up feeling kind of, from a combat standpoint, when I kind of, right? Like, again, she's not bad. That she can provide you healing early on, and so on and so forth, is very valuable. The spells she does get, you'll want to start almost using like summons because she doesn't get a ton of like great, a lot of the offensive druid spells are like 5th level and on. She's just, it feels like in this game she's supposed to be more of a fighter than a druid. Like, she's supposed to lean more on her fighter levels, but she doesn't get enough. Like, she doesn't, stat-wise, she's not strong enough as a fighter to really be a great fighter. The second game boosts her dexterity a lot. That's not the case here. She can wear armor. She'll be fine in that respect. Like, you don't have to limit her to the Ankeg hide or Ankeg plate, like people like Branwen might, or especially like Viconia might need to be. She just is a little disappointing from the combat prowess front. She does have some conflicts. Obviously, she has a quest associated with her, but it's basically the main quest. So if it's just going down to solve the problem in Nashkel, which is the main narrative of the game. So it's kind of like a quest, but she doesn't really have anything to do with it. Though it is a timer. If you take her and Khalid into the party, you are expected to go to Nashkel within like 14 days, I believe. She does have conflicts, as I mentioned, with Faldorn. She also has conflicts with Zar. Her and Zar will eventually try to kill each other. Oddly enough, her and Montaron will not, so you can put her and Montaron in the same party if you like, although Montaron and Khalid will try to kill each other. So if you want to have a party with no Khalid and no Zar, just let them die and remove them. You can still keep Jaheira and Montaron, which is kind of interesting, but she gets along with most people. I personally, I've always felt like I am in the minority. I have always kind of liked Jaheira. Yes, she's a little abrasive. Yes, she can be a little forceful. But I have always, and maybe it's because, it's probably in part because she has become such an important character. She becomes such an important character in the second game. She is a wildly important character, obviously, in the third game. But I have always been a Jaheira fan. In the words of David Lee Roth, maybe I just need aggressive women to knock me off my feet. Who the hell knows? But I have always liked Jaheira. I've always thought some of the derision against her was a little unfair. She has fun conversations. She is, again, I think unfortunately Jaheira kind of, from a personality standpoint, at some point Jaheira sort of earned the reputation of being like the nagging wife. But I think if you actually read, like, if you actually, again, with the personality that she has, yes, she's like headstrong as it even says here on the wiki, he uses the word headstrong, like, but I don't even know if headstrong is like the right word, because she's not like super stubborn. She's just very sure of herself, and she's sure of what she thinks is right and wrong. She can be a little nihilistic. That's more a thing in the second game. But I have always found that I thought her personality, again, that sort of like nagging wife thing that I think sort of got attached to her at some point, I've always felt like it's a little overblown. If you actually read her conversations, she can be very nice and caring to other people at times. She also just absolutely will destroy certain, like Edwin. She loves telling people how much she dislikes them in a great way. It makes for great conversation. I've always been a fan of Jaheira. I just wish she were better as a party member in this game. But I think you should, like, she's a very good character. And I think the importance she has in the series as a whole only betters her sort of standing as far as where I'm going to rank her. But yeah, she's very good. She kind of like Branwen, she serves her role well. Even though it's not as well as it should be, because again, her proficiencies are messed up, and the entire time you use Jaheira in Baldur's Gate 1, you're going to be sitting here saying she never quite gets there. That's what you're going to find yourself saying. You're just going to say she never quite gets there, which is unfortunate. Kagain, honestly, is like S tier. And even when I was putting this together, that kind of surprised me. So he's a lawful evil dwarven fighter. He's found in Beregost in his shop. He has a great stat line. Mostly great. He breaks the rules a little bit. He has a 16 strength, 12 dexterity, 20 constitution, 15 intelligence, 11 wisdom, and 8 charisma. So he's certainly not going to be the face of your party, but you can get him very early on. And because of that 20 constitution, he is pretty much the best tank in the game. He has tons of hit points. He actually even regenerates slightly because of that 20 constitution. He does have a quest, which you have to complete in order to keep him in the party. What's funniest about this quest is that it's like mostly bugged. So in the original game, it was bugged that so he has to look for a caravan. He's been hired to look for a caravan containing someone's son. In the original game, it was bugged. And as soon as you entered the area, it's kind of funny. As soon as you entered the area that contained the caravan, even if you did not actually go to the caravan itself, he would be like, I'm tired of looking for the caravan. Let's just go on adventuring. And okay. There is a timer to it. Now the quest is fixed in the Enhanced Edition. You do have to actually go to find the caravan. If you don't ever go to the area with the caravan, he will leave the party after, I think, 14. I think it's usually 14 days for every timer, basically. It's 14 or 15 days or something like that. It's about 2 weeks, basically, for every quest. And then you just have one of the best tanks in the game just with you. Now, he is evil, which, again, no Ajantis. He also conflicts very heavily with Yeslik. Both dwarven fighters, one's evil, one's good. They just hate each other. They cannot coexist in the party under any circumstances. They will try to kill each other. But man, oh man, you give Kagain a shield, plate mail, the best axe you can find, right? Give him something like, there's no defending axe in the first Baldur's Gate. But if you give him the +2 axe that you can get in, he is really, he hits hard enough. 16 strength is not amazing, but he definitely hits hard enough. And his ability to just soak up damage, your ability to just have him run and be the first person into the fight, as well as because of that constitution, he gets crazy bonuses to his, as I mentioned it with actually Alora of all people, but he gets those extra bonuses to his saving throws because of his constitution that are then only made even better because it's 20, it's even higher. The one thing you do want to do is get him early and start maximizing those hit points, right? When you have the opportunity to get 12 hit points a level or whatever it is he can get, because his right, let me think, yeah. So he gets, yeah, you can, it's insane. he just becomes a wall. He gets more health than anyone else unless you have a dwarven character of similar ilk. But he is a fantastic tank, unquestionably the best tank in the game. You can give him, whatever buffing spells you can, protections, whatever, and he will just stand there, and everyone else, all your enemies will not exactly be able to do all that much about him. He becomes very difficult to move. And the fact that he's so easy to get, and the fact that even though he's evil, he has relatively few conflicts, he will only really leave, again, Ajantis, Yeslik, or if the reputation gets too high, which means it's very easy to use him in good parties. 100% S tier. The guy is the man. I should say as well, I mean, it's funny too, there's almost not much to say about his personality because he's basically just apathetic to the world. He basically, I believe one of his quotes is like, "I need an ale." And it's like, all right, okay, he's all about money. He doesn't really like anyone else around him. His selection is, "I don't want to talk, go pester someone else. I need an ale." It's so, he is just a greedy, he wants money, he wants more of it, and his conversations are just how much he hates, he hates everyone. Not in the sense that, he wants to kill them, but just in the sense that Kagain hates the world. He is apathetic to the world, and it's quite funny to see it play out, both in what he says to people and what people say to him. So I think Kagain, it's funny, he's not a companion that I, always use, but I do think he's a lot of fun, and I'm going to give him an S tier. Both because, like I said, I think his personality's fun for as simplistic as it is. Statistically, stat-wise, he's fantastic. All right, continuing on to Khalid, the neutral good half-elven fighter. Member of the Harpers. I somehow forgot to mention that Jaheira is a member of the Harpers. Better to do so here, though, because frankly, there isn't as much combat-wise to talk about with Khalid. I give Khalid an A. He's a very, 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 very suitable sword arm with a 15 strength, 16 dexterity, 17 con, a 15 intelligence, a 10 wisdom, and 9 charisma. Interesting note, in the original game, if you recruited Khalid early, he would have an intelligence of 12, and if you recruited him later, he would have an intelligence of 15. It's supposed to be 15. It is 15 in the Enhanced Edition. But that was an odd thing. But the reason I give Khalid an A is because he's just really good at what he does, which is fighting. Right? So the 15 strength is not great, but believe it or not, that 16 dex, right, which not only helps him with his armor class, same way that the 17 con helps him with his hit points, but that 16 dex actually means that he's a great archer. If you want to give him a bow, maybe you don't feel like waiting for Coran, or maybe you don't feel like doing some of the quest-related stuff for Kivan, he's a great archer. He is also fine in melee because he does get the bonuses to his AC and health and whatever that lets him survive in the front line. And generally, he's good at fighting. I think Khalid, kind of like Jaheira, gets a bad rep, and I'll tell you why, and it's why I mentioned morale. You probably wondered why I mentioned morale with Ajantis and then never brought it up again. It's because I've been waiting until we got to Khalid. So, Khalid, personality-wise, is he's a bit nervous, a bit frantic. He has a stutter, and it is frequently referred to that he does not have courage. So I think this has developed this idea that Khalid is more prone to morale breaks than other characters. Which, let me point something out. When you play these games, I'm going to be totally honest with you, you're not going to see morale breaks that often. It's just not a status effect that comes up all that often. It just doesn't. Because frankly, if combat is going that badly that you're seeing morale breaks, you're going to lose. And you're going to die and you're going to need to reload. So it almost doesn't even matter, right? But I think because Khalid has this stutter and there are frequent references made to his lack of courage, that I think people believe that he suffers from morale breaks more frequently, which isn't true. Like, he has the same morale, I believe, as Kagain. So, he's just not more likely. It's not a thing that is a mechanic in the game that, like, Khalid is more likely to start running away. He doesn't have any quests associated with it except for the quest to go down to the mines. That's the main quest. He conflicts both with Montaron and Zar. So eventually he'll try to kill both of them, and they can't be in the group together. Obviously, that goes to the fact that Zhentarim and Harpers are, like, literally opposed to each other. They hate each other. But for what you want Khalid to do, again, is he the greatest frontline fighter in the world? No, because his strength just isn't high enough to let him dish out as much damage as you would want. But he's a great archer. He's a really good fighter. Again, is he the most interesting or deep character in the world? No, he's kind of just a doormat. He's kind of just a doormat for everyone, including his wife, Jaheira. But he's very good. He's basically a Ajantis, but without... I mean, his proficiencies make sense, right? Like, he has points in longsword and longbow. You can get him really early. So, like, if you want to give him a longbow, eventually you can get to, like, Grand Mastery. Right? You can boost him to that point. Because you'll get 2 or 3 points, and you can get to, I don't know if you get to Grand Master, but you can definitely get to, like, 4 points. And that means he will start, if you give him a bow, just start going to town. Because fighters with these sort of higher masteries and weapons are insane. It'll reach a point where, with a lot of archers in Baldur's Gate, where it's like, oh, Khalid can't miss. Like, unless he literally rolls a 1, he can't miss. Which is just insane, because the amount of DPS that lets you do damage on top of damage on top of damage from a safe distance. And again, he can carry things, which is something I also haven't talked about. There's a lot of characters with low strength in this game, and there aren't bags of holding in Baldur's Gate 1 like there are in Baldur's Gate 2 and Icewind Dale. So he can carry things for you reasonably well. Like, he's just a really good, he's kind of like a Ajantis, except his stat line's better, and he doesn't hate half the cast in the game. Just Zar and Montaron. It's like, he's A tier. He's not the most interesting character in the world, but I do find it really interesting from, like, a historical standpoint that his personality seems to have developed this idea isn't true is true. But I give him an A. Kivan, the chaotic good ranger, with a racial enemy of ogre. So it's not a bad racial enemy for this game. You get a good amount of ogres. Excuse me one moment. I'm doing this all in one sitting, people. I'm going horse. But his racial enemy of ogre, and listen, racial enemies are not that useful. It's a little extra damage, a little bonus to hit. I talked about it in my class guide. They're not that great, but there are a good amount of ogres in this game. And with a stat line of 18/12 strength, 17 dex, 14 con, 10 intelligence, 14 wisdom, and 8 charisma. So the biggest thing about Kivan, so he's a ranger, he's an archer, he's meant to use a bow. He is not as good at using a bow as, say, Coran, because he can only get 2 points in bow. Or Khalid, even, really, because he can only get 2 points in bow. He is the easiest to use a composite longbow with, right? He could use the composite longbow. There is a magic composite longbow in Baldur's Gate 1. I don't think it has a name. It's funny, I remember most of items in any of these games. Yeah, it doesn't. It's just the composite longbow +1. I remember most items by names, like especially in Baldur's Gate 2, and most of the items in Baldur's Gate 1 don't have names. So, like, I know they exist, but I keep having to, like, check myself. So there is a magic composite longbow, which he can very easily use because of that 18/12 strength. He also comes skilled in halberds, which makes switching from the bow to the halberd. You don't really want him in the front line, although he can with the 17 dex. He has a decent AC, although he doesn't get any hit point bonuses, but he can walk into the front line if someone gets on top of him, if need be. And listen, he's good with a bow. He does have a quest associated with him. So, and this is where the quote-unquote issue with Kivan sort of comes. So you find him in High Hedge, right? And he wants to take out one of the bandit leaders who killed his wife. And the problem with this is that there's a very strict time limit on it. Now, it's funny, in the original game, there wasn't. It was actually bugged that the time limit didn't work, but this is now fixed in the Enhanced Edition. And the time limit's pretty strict. Like, if you go, because you can get Kivan in Chapter 1, right? Like very early, which is, again, what you want to do because it lets you get maximum hit points and lets you choose how you're going to skill these characters. But the problem with it is the time limit on the quest, right? So you get them at chapter 1, you then have to get to chapter 3, and you only have 20 days to do it. That's not a lot of time. You will literally start to, like, you basically, if you take Kivan in your party at level chapter 1, you then basically have to do nothing but get to the bandit camp. Because you have to remember about the time spent traveling between areas. You have to remember about the other things you have to do. Like, you have to really haul ass down to the mines, get through the mines, do all that, then, then get up to the bandit camp so that he doesn't get mad, because he will get pissed off and leave. So if you want to use Kivan, especially early on, you're gonna have to really dictate the way you play your game around him. So that's why I give him a B, because he's a good archer. He's not a great archer like Coran or Khalid. And you have some really strict sort of rules with him as far as how you actually use him. Now, the good thing is he doesn't have many conflicts. He will conflict with Viconia. He will attack her eventually, although it seems to be kind of random, but he will eventually, in all likelihood, attack her. So that's the only problem there, right? He's good with everyone else. Personality-wise, he's all about vengeance. Vengeance, my loss to Hiriana. The one thing I do like about Kivan is because you do fight Tazok, who is the leader that killed his wife, in the final battle. And Khalid actually will, like, say something in the final battle. And so, like, it just feels like he's sort of a bit better integrated into the story of the game as a whole, which is kind of nice. But his biggest problem is that he just gets overshadowed by other characters. So he's not bad. You can absolutely take him. The extra, because the problem is, too, if this were Baldur's Gate 2 and we were talking about the wealth, he will get, like, an Armor of Faith in Baldur's Gate 1, but we're not talking about, like, real high-level spellcasting from a ranger here, so it's not as valuable as it otherwise would be. And as such, I think he honestly kind of falls into, like, Jaheira, where it's like there's better people at what you do, and you never really, we're not talking about a late game ranger with, 25% Armor of Faith reduction or whatever. Like, you're just kind of, in this case, a worse archer who has a really frustrating time limit attached to his quest, which is a little frustrating. I do like, again, those little things that are integrated with him in the story and so on and so forth. Vengeance. There also is, it says here on the wiki, I couldn't confirm this. He apparently had character files in the second game, but doesn't show up there, obviously. So maybe he was supposed to be in the second game at one point. Kind of interesting. But he's fine. He's fine. Oh, and he can also charm animals. Pointless. You know how pointless that is if you watch Class Guide. And now we must talk about someone who has become very important in the world of Baldur's Gate. And that would, of course, be Minsc. Minsc, the neutral good human ranger, found in Nashkel with a strength of 1893, 15 dex, 15 con, 8 intelligence, 6 wisdom, which should be impossible for a ranger, and 9 charisma. So, he also has an exclusive berserk ability, which sucks. So okay, listen. I'm going to give Minsc an A. Okay, listen. I'm going to give Minsc an A because I think his personality and his importance to the series is massive. And he has a lot of great banter in this game. Obviously, Boo is great. He does, unlike Jaheira, because of that 1893 strength, he will wreck shop with people. He is as good at hitting people as you need him to be. He can also carry a lot of stuff, as I mentioned. There are a lot of people with bad strength in Baldur's Gate 1, so the fact that he can carry whatever that is, basically 450 pounds or 500 pounds or whatever it is very actually valuable. But if we were being strictly objective, based on his stat line, based on his abilities, based on what he can do, he is C tier, bro. He's C tier. And the problem is, His dexterity and constitution do not grant him enough defenses, so while yes, he can run in with that two-handed sword and mog people, the kids today have taught me about that word, he can mog people, he also gets blown up fairly quickly, kind of like Dorn. There's also the fact that while he can cast spells, he will get the absolute bare minimum because he somehow has a 6 wisdom, which is obviously owed to the way that he's... It's funny. Minsc in Baldur's Gate 1 specifically is meant to just be a buffoon. A complete and absolute buffoon. He is an idiot in the first game. They have eased back on that in the second game and Baldur's Gate 3, where yes, he's obviously still got a few screws loose, but he's not like, again, a buffoon like he's supposed to be in Baldur's Gate 1. Here's the other thing. His Berserk ability sounds great, right? Because it similarly works to the Berserk ability that you get with like the Berserker class. It's like, oh, I'm going to read this all off you for 120 seconds. He gets 15 HP. He gets the Berserk. He gets 2 strength, 2 dexterity. He becomes immune to morale failure, immune to charm creature, confusion, feeble-minded, hold creature, all these things. Everything you could ever want to be immune to. However, you also lose control of him. He becomes Berserk, and by Berserk it means he attacks whatever is nearest to him, which means he will start attacking your party members, which means he can absolutely rail your own party members with that 1893 strength he has. There's also the fact that despite the fact that he gets spellcasting, he cannot use scrolls or wands, which would make up for the fact in a normal situation that he's not getting very many clerical spells. You could at least use scrolls. He can't because he doesn't have the intelligence to do so. His racial enemy of Gnoll is not actually worth that much because Gnolls, frankly, are easy to kill, and after the Stronghold, there aren't that many of them. He has to be paired with Dynaheir, so you have to either let Dynaheir die or keep them together. He is not... There is also the fact that Boo, as much as we all love Boo, Boo takes up one of his quick slots, which means that you have 2 less items that you can put, like potions, for him to use. It just... Man, oh man. I get it, we all love Minsc, but objectively, like, if you consider personality and importance this year, yes, he is A tier. If you consider just combat, he is... I said C tier, he might be D tier. Because frankly, he doesn't even like have what Ajantis gives you, which is the face and stuff like that. Like he is able to succeed because he can hit things so hard and the enemies are lower level in Baldur's Gate 1. There is a reason why they buffed his stats in Baldur's Gate 2. Because if you took this Minsc and put him in Baldur's Gate 2, he would struggle. But you get him that +3 greatsword with that strength, he will, like I said, mog people. And obviously his personality is great. He conflicts with Edwin, but only if Edwin is with Dynaheir, which is basically impossible. So if you want to kill Dynaheir and then take Edwin, I guess you can. And Minsc, I guess you can. His conversations are the best. He legitimately... listen, I'm a fan of Minsc. I know some people think he's overbearing, and maybe at some point they think he's a bit overdone. But Minsc really was one of the first characters that made me fall in love with Baldur's Gate as someone coming from Icewind Dale. It just stinks that from a statistical standpoint and everything else, he is just not good. It almost hurts for me to say that, but who doesn't love Minsc? Moving on to Montaron. I'm going to give Montaron an A. I think Montaron is actually kind of underrated. Neutral evil halfling fighter thief. You get him literally at the first area of the game, the Candlekeep Coastway. He is a member of the Zentarum. He has really, honestly, great stats. 16 strength, 17 dex, 15 con. You'd like that con to be a little higher, but it's fine. 12 intelligence, 13 wisdom, and 9 charisma. He's also, I haven't noted this for most other characters, but he is voiced by Earl Bone, the therapist from the Terminator. Just thought you should know that. But he is basically exactly who you should be taking if you want a thief for an evil party. Not only because you can get him so early, which allows you to... Getting a character early is most important for thieves because obviously you're increasing your thief levels every level. It's not just the weapon skills. So you can specifically decide what you actually want him to do. He is both capable of being a thief and backstabbing. He is also capable, frankly, of standing in the front lines. Obviously, you can put armor on him if you want, although that will reduce your thieving abilities, disable your thieving abilities until you take it off. But you can put, he is strong enough to wear plate mail and whatnot, which is huge. He dishes out legitimate damage. I mean, there is an argument to be made that he is a better fighter, considering this is a lower level adventure, that for a good part of the game, he is a better fighter than someone like Khalid. Like, he, with the slightly higher strength, with the dex, with the ability to backstab, he really can do it all. He is paired, there isn't a lot to say about Montaron, because frankly, I don't want to say he doesn't have much personality, but he doesn't. You know, there's no quest except for going down to the mines, which again is the main quest of the game. You do have to keep Zar with him, although as much as every other character that I mentioned at this point will be upset if their partner dies, Montaron does not care. He's actually seemingly kind of happy when Zar bites the dust. But he's just a really good character. He's an A. I give him an A because he is a little more difficult to use. You can't use him with Ajantis. You can't use him with Khalid, although you can ironically use him with Jaheira. He's just really good. Like, I kind of wish there were more to say about him. He shows up in the second game, basically to die. He gets the bonuses, again, from the Constitution, being a halfling race. Like, he kind of has it all. And the malleability you have of him is fantastic. And as such, if you want an evil thief, I don't see any reason why you would want to pick anyone other than Montaron. He can also use wands and whatnot because he has the requisite intelligence, which is also very, very valuable. He also, him or Zar, gets you out of a fight with the sorcerers and sorcerer sundries in Baldur's Gate. Now, you might actually want to fight him because you want the items, but he can also get you out of that, so that's another little interesting wrinkle of him, because those wizards are from the Zhentarim. Love it. I mean, he is a well-rounded, great character, but unfortunately one that, because he doesn't have a ton of personality, I mean, other than that, he's bloodthirsty and evil. I almost wish there were more to say about him, but he's real good. He's skilled in short sword, right? And that's why I knew I was forgetting something I wanted to mention. He's skilled in short swords. And there are quite a few very, very good short swords in Baldur's Gate 1. So, the Shadow Blade, which you find it late, but it's one of the few +3 weapons in Baldur's Gate 1, which obviously he is then suited to use. Quayle, F. Chaotic Neutral, Gnome Cleric Illusionist, found at Worm's Crossing, which is the bridge to Baldur's Gate. He has conflicts with Tiax because I'm not even sure. I honestly think it's because they're both like halflings both gnomes, and they are around the same area, and I guess they thought they should fight for something because they just hate each other for some reason, even though there's really no reason for them to hate each other. Listen, Quayle sucks because you don't get him until the end of the game, and he has one of the worst stat lines I've ever seen. 8 strength. He has, in the original game, he has a 15 dexterity. In the enhanced edition, he has a 16. He has an 11 constitution, an 17 intelligence, a 10 wisdom as a cleric, and 6 charisma for a total score of either 67 or 68. He is awful. Yes, he's a decent mage. He is an awful cleric. He gets bare minimum cleric spells per level. And seeing as this is an early level adventure, you can't do things like sequence. That you get him so late is another huge problem. By this time, you should have both a cleric and a spellcasting mage in your party that is unquestionably better from a stat standpoint than him. He has no quests that make you want to take him. He can turn himself invisible, which is nice, but I don't know what he's supposed to do realistically with that invulnerability. Bro is ass. He's bad. Circumstantially, stat-wise, everything. The most noteworthy thing about Quayle is that he comes to be somewhat intertwined with Aerie in the second game. He is just pointless, useless, stupid, dumb character. Like I said, there are a few characters in Baldur's Gate 1 that for some reason exist when they probably shouldn't. He is one of them without question. I just realized as well, I was so eager to dunk on Quayle because of how much I hate him, I skipped over Neera. So we're going to talk about Neera now, who I was supposed to talk about after Montaron. Good for you, Quayle. Neera, enhanced edition character, chaotic neutral, half-elven wild mage, S tier, basically because of her class and the fact that her being an enhanced edition character means you get to do a whole bunch of extra side quests to get you extra items and experience and whatnot. 11 strength, 17 dexterity, 14 con, 17 intelligence, 10 wisdom, 11 charisma. So she does, like I said, have a bunch of quests. She conflicts with Edwin, and Edwin only effectively, because she is being hunted by red wizards, and Edwin is a red wizard. There is like workaround where you can get them both in the same party, but it's kind of awkward and doesn't really work. She also comes with a unique staff, but you also don't ever want her using it, but basically has a staff that has a 10% chance to either do fire damage to her or fire damage to the person she's hitting. She has a couple quests. Like I said, the first quest is just a general like saving her. And then there is another one where you go to basically a wild mage enclave, which allows you to get actually some decent items. And obviously the experience, the biggest item you get from is actually a belt from a gentleman by the name of Adoy, which actually helps her polymorph. It's a nice, interesting thing of story gameplay segregation, because Neera on several occasions talks about how she polymorphs herself and how it just put her in unfortunate situations. It's not super useful. I mean, yes, she can polymorph from a wild surge. It's not the most useful thing in the world, but it is kind of neat that it has a real story gameplay segregation element to it. But Neera's great because of her class. Now, she's not as great as wild mages become later when they start getting things like Chaos Shield, but the fact that she can learn spells, even if she doesn't have the ability to cast them yet, because of her level, she can cast them through Dwemer, through the wild mage spell. This is almost an argument of like why wild mages are so good as opposed to why Neera is so good. Now, she is good. She has great intelligence. The fact that she gives you, as an enhanced edition character, she has a lot of conversation. She has a lot of banter, which is great. I mean, who doesn't love it? I know some people are like intrinsically put off by the writing of the enhanced edition characters. I'm not. I find Neera quite enjoyable to have in the party. I like seeing how she interacts with the other people. She's a little zany, but without being like too ridiculously over the top. She's really good at her job, which is blowing things up. And also too, it's just fun running that risk, of having bad things happen sometimes, because why wouldn't it be? I think Neera's really, really great. The fact that you also get her early, right? Like you get her in Baragost is another plus for her. She's just really good. You can use her in evil parties, good parties. That you get her early means you can build up the spell repertoire. And yeah, I have used her on plenty occasions. Great character. Really, really enjoy her. Again, I just think she's a really good character. I do wish, right, like, so the 14 con is tough because she doesn't have a lot of hit points. So it can be hard to keep her alive. But man, oh man, Dwemer is just such a ridiculous spell. And what it lets her do, she doesn't have skills with any ranged weapons, so you're going to have to do that pretty early. So she's not going to be able to even help out on that end. But the fact that she can just cast whatever she wants with the Dwemer, this is almost more of like a wild mage argument than a Neera argument. But again, she's also romanceable, right? And the romances in the first Baldur's Gate are kind of weird because they really aren't romances. They're gonna be totally honest. Like they're just like a few extra conversations that your character gets to have with them that only the enhanced edition companions have. But I find her romance isn't bad. You get to learn about her backstory, right? You get to learn a bit more about her, which is fun. Great addition to any, even evil party, because again, unless you get that evil, she won't leave. She's chaotic neutral. All right, so now we'll have another, the last of the Enhanced Edition companions, which is going to be Rasaad. I believe it's Bashir. I think it's basically I don't know. Lawful good, male, human, sun, soul, monk. Found in Nashkel with a stat line 16 strength, 16 dexterity, 14 con, 11 intelligence, 14 wisdom, 14 charisma. I imagine anyone that watched my class guide was probably waiting for this moment. D tier. Listen, I know you probably wanted me to say F, and on the class I want to say F because monks, I think, are terrible. But he gets a ton of, you get extra questing to do with him. He is he has a romance option as well. He has legitimate, you get to talk to him, you get to learn things from him, you get to learn about him. So there is something to him in that regard outside of the combat. You do get some decent items from his quest, the biggest of which is what's called the Big Fisted Belt, which is basically a belt of giant strength, although it's cursed, so it gives you 19 strength, but 6 intelligence, which obviously hurts your saves, but if you have a fighter that you want to put it on, it works incredibly well. In that situation, you also get what's called the Glimmering Bands, which are great for him because they're great for Thaco. It's only usable by him, but it's good for his Thaco. He also comes with a set of boots called the Moonlight Walkers, which also give him, and not Thaco, they give him armor class. My, oh my, oh my, I can't imagine why the quest for Rasaad and why he starts with an item that helps his stat line. Oh my goodness gracious, it's almost like it probably has something to do with the fact that monks suck. And that because he can't wear armor, he will die. And that he has no health bonus from that 14 constitution. That 16 dex does not do anywhere near enough for him to stay alive. There are not enough magical items for which in the first game, because it's a lower level adventure, for him to gain the necessary resistances and headwear, whatever, to stay alive. There are not items like the katanas in Baldur's Gate 2, right? Like there is no, what was it? Celestial Fury. There is no Celestial Fury for him to use in Baldur's Gate 1. So guess what? He dies because he's a monk and that's what he does. Yes, I get it. He is performed very well by Mark Meer. You have all these quests that you can do that get you extra golden experience. He doesn't have any conflicts. He's actually the only Enhanced Edition character that doesn't have any conflicts because he technically has a conflict with Viconia, but you can you're presented with a choice where it's supposed to be one or the other, but you can also just be like, guys, I'm the ball spawn, I'm real cool, you want to hang out with me? And they both literally just go, oh my god, you're right. So like it's kind of weird. I remember when that happened the first time I played, like literally one of the first times I played the Enhanced Edition, I took Rasaad with me and I had Viconia. I thought I had like a real problem with my hands, and then you just choose the one option and they're like, yeah, we'll stick around. We were just throwing, it was just an ultimatum thrown down that we hate each other and that we will not be in the party together. But you bring up a really interesting point of that you're you. So yeah, okay, there's that. But he's awful in combat. He is terrible in combat. You're not even at the point in the first Baldur's Gate where you have gone and gotten all the cool bonuses from being a high-level monk, which even those aren't good enough anyway. So he's D simply because he does give you some cool quests to do, and you do get to romance him and learn a little bit more about him. And believe me, we'll talk about that romance in Baldur's Gate 2 because that nonsense became awful in Baldur's Gate 2. But he barely escapes the gutter and my monk hatred, because he can be an interesting conversation, and he does give you some cool quests to do. And again, that girdle of giant strength, cursed as it might be, can be super valuable. Safana. So I am not going to discuss Siege of Dragonspear Safana. I understand Siege of Dragonspear Safana is a source of much ire. I am not going to discuss that here. Chaotic Neutral, Human Thief, found at the Lighthouse area with a strength of 13, dex of 17, con of 10, intelligence of 16, wisdom of 9, and charisma of 17. So she's actually a great face for a neutral party. So Safana's interesting. She is just pretty plainly a thief, right? Like, there isn't much to say about her class-wise. There is interesting, again, if you do what you shouldn't do and you give her the Tome of Intelligence, you can turn her into a mage, and having a 17 intelligence with a 17 dex, she can play the role of a mage well. But as a thief, again, you should not be doing that. As a thief, is good with a bow because of her dexterity, but she really doesn't give you much in way in backstabbing. I guess she gives you a little bit more in the sense that her strength is not single digit like Imoen or Alora. She can't really... I mean, she's good as a thief as far as her skills, and you can get her early enough that you have a lot of say over where she puts her points into, but she's just not... She's fine. She's fine. I would give Safana a B. She's a B. She's fine. And a lot of that has to do with a couple different things. So she has a quest, right? When you recruit her, she wants you to basically go to one of the caves in the lighthouse area and get the treasure in the cave. Now, it's very difficult if you try to do this early, which also hurts her. If you want to get Safana at like level 1, you are really going to struggle with that first level, with that cave, because there's flesh golems in there and traps that at that point you're probably not going to be able to detect and disarm. So it's really difficult to do her quest early. Possible, but very difficult. Here's the other thing. I can't even really give her credit for her quest, because kind of like Coran's quest, you're going to do her quest anyway, just adventuring. Now, you want to do the quest because you have to do it if you want to recruit her, because there's a timer on it. But more than anything, you want to do the quest because of the insane bonuses. They're in that cave. You get a ton of XP because the flesh golems have a ton of XP with them. You get a Wand of Paralyze. You get a wolf cloak, which lets you turn into a wolf. You get the Tome of Bodily Health, which is the Constitution Tome. That's also what she's looking for. She doesn't use it on herself. She just wants it. She also has a really crappy version of Charm Person called Safana's Kiss, because Safana, her whole personality is that she's the sultry seductress. Ooh, she loves Coran but won't tell him. Oh, flirts with Kivan. Very nice. And she shows back up in the second game. Listen, Safana, there's really no other way to say it. She is here to appeal to the male whatever. It's a product of 1998. And listen, as a thief, she's good. She's got the dex needed. She's got the skills needed. But she's just, her quest is not actually her own, because you could just do her quest without her. And you're going to want to do it anyway. And it's really hard to do early on, which means it's difficult to get her early on. So I would imagine the only reason you want to use Safana legitimately is if you're maybe in like an evil party and you don't feel like using Montaron. That's it. Like, I understand, and again, I am purposely skirting around the whatever happened with her in Siege of Dragonspear. I just don't feel the need or purpose, but she's a thief. She's a sultry, seductress thief who will whisper sweet nothings to you. When I'm not going to say that, but it's fine. She's a fine character. She's a fine character. Get your head out of the gutter. Lock in. Would you lock in? We're breaking down the companions here, bro. Lock in. All right. Public service announcement over. I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm looking at the person that actually has a conflict with Eldoth, which is Shar-Teel. Listen, I've been doing this for like 3 hours at this point, all right? I'm starting to get lightheaded. Shar-Teel, the chaotic evil human fighter. Screw it. Shar-Teel is S tier. She's probably not. Objectively, she's A tier. But I'm going to make her S tier for a few reasons. One, she has a conflict with Eldoth where she'll try to kill him. Awesome. Just does you the favor. And secondly, if you look at her stat line, 1858 strength, great. 17 dex, great. 9 con, disgusting. 14 intelligence, 7 wisdom, 11 charisma. The reason why I think Shar-Teel is so good is because, one, kind of like Dorn, she is a usage candidate for the claw because of her constitution. But the best way to overcome her poor constitution is if you duel her to a thief. And you don't need to use a tome or anything on her. And honestly, the best way to play Shar-Teel is to duel her to a thief. Take however many levels in fighter you want. Because, like, yes, you could technically go to... Although thieves level so quickly, maybe you could go to 7. Oh, that'd be real late when you get your fighter skills back. I know the power gamers will probably say 7, but... Because 7, you get the extra attack per round. Although, if you're not going to 7, maybe just go to 3. If you're... I would say... yeah, 3 or 7. Either duel her quickly or wait. But whatever you choose. But what happens is, because she has that 1858 strength, she then becomes an insane backstabber. And being an insane backstabber means you don't have to worry about the fact, because if you're backstabbing people, you're not going to be frontlining in the same way. Means you don't have to worry about the fact that she is, you know, got the health of the health of a baby deer. Like, right? Like, it doesn't matter because you're going to be weaving in and out with a backstab. And man, she does, when you get that 4 times 4 backstab multiplier and then you combine, oh my God, she can one-shot people. She legit, you get a crit, she one-shots people. And I just think this is, like, this to me, honestly, what I like about Shar-Teel as well, this is a great way, like, if you're newer to the games, she is, to me, like, the best companion for you to learn more about dual classing with, to sort of dip your toe into the water, because it just makes so much sense. There's also another element to this. I should have said, she's found in a little bit of a weird area. She's found in Mutamin's garden. Now, the one tough thing about, not tough, but the one odd thing about Shar-Teel is that you have to have a man in your party. She hates men. She despises men. You have to have a man in your party, and you have to let her fight him. And he needs to win, or else she won't join your party. Now, the fight is not particularly difficult because she has a constitution of a baby deer. So you only have to hit her once or twice. But you do have to go find a man and have him win. And after that, she will join your party. So that's like the only real, like, quest that she has associated with her. Interesting. She's very interesting in the fact that she has an so how many times am I going to say interesting? I guess I'm spoiling part of the story here. So later in the game, when you are dragged in front of Angelo as the head of the Flaming Fist, he's corrupt, you know, he's a Sarevok lackey. She is his daughter. And if she's in your party, you can basically just use her to tell him to let you go, and he will. And it actually makes that section, which can be a little annoying because you have to run through the city, and that's when you're haunted by the guards and whatever, a lot simpler. Like, legitimately, it is a legitimately nice thing to do, to be able to just walk up to Angelo and say, hey, daddy, let daughter go. And he does. It's a legitimately nice thing to do. It's quite fun. What you should do with Shar-Teel, like I said, I would dual class her. I would probably use daggers, because with the backstab, she makes a great use of the... I do know there's the dagger of venom, which I believe is +2, unless I've forgotten. +2, right? Yep, it is +2. And 15 points of damage over 15 seconds is great. But she is... in that role, again, if you just leave her as a fighter, she's like a B, because she just can't She might even be like a C, because she just can't frontline well enough. But if you duel her to a thief, again, objectively she's an A. I'll bump her up to an S because she kills Eldoth for you. But really, really, really strong character overall. And personality-wise, I said she hates men, and she hates all the men that you have in her party, but it thankfully doesn't really cause any problems outside of Eldoth. Ski. I gave Alora a C. I'm going to give Ski a D because she's paired with Eldoth. True neutral human thief, there's not a lot to say about Ski. Her stat line is actually not bad, 11 strength, so she really can't backstab, but 18 dex, great. 15 con, hey, nice to get the extra hit points. 15 intelligence. 8 wisdom, 13 charisma. Found in Entar Silvershield's estate. Again, you have to have Eldoth with you to recruit her, because she will like freak out and hate you and be afraid of you if you try to speak to her without him there. She's one of the many thieves in the game, but you get her so late in the game that using her is really, 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 really impractical, because again, you can't... Now, she doesn't suffer from the issue... Basically, she does not... I do not have her exact thing here. She does not, like, dump all her stats in pickpocket from what I remember, because I used Ski once on the same one when I used Eldoth. So her stats a little better, but it's also still the struggle that you don't have the ability to really influence what she's doing, right, as far as the choices she makes. So you're basically just, if for some reason you get to Baldur's Gate and you need a thief, like, I guess she's fine, but she's also the most annoying. Like, she is the most annoying. God, I hate her. Like, she's literally like, I broke a nail, and what, like, she is the whiny, she's a stuck-up, pompous, rich kid, effectively, and there are just better options than her that don't come with Eldoth. And the one kind of interesting thing, because even if you compare her to, like, Alora, like, she doesn't get the rabbit's foot, right? The one thing she can do is that there's a guy, I forget his name, to be totally honest, but there's a guy in a bar in Baldur's Gate that she can, like, blackmail because the silver shields are seedy and corrupt. So she can blackmail him, but, like, it doesn't, it's like what do you need that couple thousand gold for? Right, at that point in the game, by the time you get to Baldur's Gate, you're rich. She just, there's no, again, there's no point for her to exist. Like, there just really isn't any real reason for her to exist. And I hate her personality. And yes, she's a decent thief as far as her stat line and her skill scores, but blech. Ugh. All right, Tiax. I want to give him an F, but the reality is he actually has a really good unique ability, so he's a D. But he's a chaotic evil cleric thief. Again, found very, very late in the game in Baldur's Gate, right in front of the Flaming Fist. As I mentioned, he will fight with Quayle for reasons that are never explained. And his stat line is 9 strength, 16 dexterity, 16 con, 10 intelligence, 13 wisdom, and 9 charisma. The thing that saves Tiax from the gutter, so his stat line's awful, right? Like, he's an awful backstab candidate because he has 9 strength. His 16 dex is pretty bad. His thieving skills are bad. Like, they're just not allocated well. The one thing that saves him from the gutter is he has the ability to summon a Ghast. Not a Ghast. Like, so it's a type of ghoul, but it's a Ghast, which is like basically the superpowered ghoul, which is fast and can paralyze people. And it's really, really good for basically being used as like a distraction in certain areas of the game, like especially when you're dealing with things like Basilisks, or it's really good in like certain areas of Durlag's tower. And just, it's a really, really legitimately good summon, kind of like Faldorn's Direwolf. But the problem is, he's a bad thief. You're now splitting your thief levels. He's a bad cleric because he has no wisdom. And now you're splitting that experience too, so you can't even get some of the better cleric spells. Not that you're gonna be able to prepare many on a given day. And he's also annoying. Like, he's a raving madman who I believe believes he's going to take over the world. Like, this thing, again, Tiax should not exist. There is no reason for Tiax to exist. There are several, like, they seem to make and this is not a problem in the second game, it's why I bring it out here. They seem to make several characters in this first game that their entire purpose was to suck. Right? Like, Tiax is not good at effectively anything, and yet that seems to work perfectly with his completely delusional fact that he thinks he's going to rule the world. Like, he's a raving maniac who thinks he's going to rule the world. And it seems to be some sort of gameplay thing where it's like, no, he's actually awful, but he has this complete overinflated sense of whatever. That's why in the later games, he's a punchline. He's in Spellhold in Baldur's Gate 2. He's a joke of a character. Again, him, Quayle, Ski, where like they're just so dumb or over the top or laughably bad from a stat standpoint that it seems like they were intended to be bad, and I don't know why they did that in the first game, but it is obviously something they did. So don't use him, don't take him. Is it mildly entertaining, like the first few times you hear his voice quips where he's, a raving maniac? I guess. But God, it wears real thin over time. Viconia, Devere, in this game is B tier. So, found in Peldvale, neutral evil drow cleric, strength of 8, or strength of 10, dexterity of 19, that's great, constitution of 8, that's brutal, intelligence of 16, that's fine, wisdom of 15, and charisma of 14. Viconia, I put her in B because she, like most of the other clerics in this game, is kind of mid. That dexterity is great, but it doesn't do a whole lot for her because she flatly cannot tank. Not only because of her 8 constitution, but also because she can't wear anything over chainmail because she doesn't have the strength to. So you have to get her the strength gloves or a strength belt if you want her to be able to wear full plate, but even then, she doesn't have the health that you need in order to tank. Her wisdom is average, it's nothing special. She is very good with a sling. Because of that dexterity, she can definitely do some work back there, but she really just sort of fills the role of a cleric for evil party members in Baldur's Gate 1. She becomes much better in Baldur's Gate 2 because they bump up her wisdom significantly in Baldur's Gate 2. But again, talk about that in the other video. But she just doesn't... There's nothing special about Viconia in Baldur's Gate 1. She does have the 50% magic resistance as Baeloth did because she's a drow. Which, hey, that's nice, but if you're getting hit by spells with Viconia, she's probably dead, because she's got 10 hit points. She does, so obviously conflicts with Ajantis. She also has a conflict with Kivan, because Kivan hates her. It's actually kind of like one-sided hate. And like I said, she has the conflict with Rasaad that isn't really a conflict. She doesn't have any quests for you to do. It's outside of the quest to save her. She does have fun conversations because Viconia is never shy to speak her mind. She's pretty complex in that respect. She's fine. Again, she's kind of mid in this game. She is obviously important for the later game. She also shows up. It's a much smaller role, but she also shows up in Baldur's Gate 3. Sorry if I just spoiled anything for anyone, which effectively means I think her endings in the second game are retconned, but again, I could talk about that later. She's, again, give her a sling, keep her as far away from anyone with any strength as possible, because again, she's not wearing good armor, and again, it's not only that she can't wear plate mail, she can't use big shields. So that's one of the biggest problems too with trying to frontline her, is she has no real missile protection. That's another massive problem, so that's something else you have to consider. Again, keep her in the back, give her a sling, give her the small shield, the best small shield she can use. What's the sling? Oh, I think I'm confusing it with the sling in the second game. Give her the, no, the Dragonbane sling. You gotta get that in Durlag's tower. I thought that was in the second game for whatever reason. It's not. But it's really, like, she'll use a sling well. She will do all the casting that you basically need. But, good God, do not let anyone even breathe on her. And like I said, I always like Viconia's personality. I like how straightforward she is, and she has some really fun banters with other party members, all in all. Obviously voiced by the great Delisle. So, Zan. People are going to get mad at me about this. I'm going to say D tier. And there's a couple reasons for that. So he's a lawful neutral elven enchanter found in the mines, and that is his quest that you have to sort of save him. But again, he doesn't have any real quests. Otherwise, he also does not have any conflicts. He has a good stat line: 13 strength, 16 dex, 7 con, which is brutal, but 17 intelligence with a smart, wisdom, which is nice, and charisma. So he can actually do some shopping. He can't be the front of your party, obviously, because he's a wizard. He doesn't have the stat line to be able to do so. The reason I say Zan is a D is because in the original Baldur's Gate, you need evocation spells. You need Magic Missile in the original Baldur's Gate. He cannot cast Magic Missile because he is an enchanter. You need Fireball. These are powerful spells that are only made more powerful because you're playing in a lower level situation. Not having access to those is a huge problem. Huge problem. And yes, it's very cool. He comes with a unique Moonblade, which is just a cool thing to say. It's a +3 dagger. It's cool. It gives him 50% armor, fire resistance. It gives him a bonus to his armor class. That's great. He can't use it. You cannot get Zan in a situation where he can realistically use it. And he's the only one that can. So, like, because he's not high enough level, you can't, like, give him Stone Skins. You can't give him Tensor's Transformation. So if you were to try to, like, use the Moonblade, he would just die. And he does. Like, so he's almost like an impractical character because he can't cast some of the most important spells for this game. And he has a unique item that is not useful. Like, people seem to really like Zan, and I think they like him because people like his personality. I hate it. I find Zan to be... Life is so hollow. Oh, we're all doomed. You know, like, I can't stand Zan, personally. There are just too many spells he can't use. Like, yes, he can use them from wands, but you're like, if we were talking a higher level situation where he would have access to some higher level spells that would allow, like, the best offensive spell that I think he can use in this game is Skull Trap. And, like, Skull Trap's nice, but it ain't amazing. But, like, Skull Trap, Melfs, like, those are nice spells. They're not Fireball. They're not Magic Missile. Like, it's so... He's just too... Again, if Zan were in Baldur's Gate 2, maybe we'd be having a different discussion, but the impracticality of his class kit, yes, the item's cool, but he can't use it. The fact that I think his personality is awful and annoying. Thankfully, he doesn't really conflict with anyone as far as, like, causing any issues. Although he agrees with me that Eldoth, you know, he hates Eldoth as much as I do. So, but unfortunately, he's an impractical character. And he's not impractical like the other ones, because it's not like you get him too late to use him. He's just impractical within the way the game is played. If you're a newer player, do not take Zan on, like, a first run, because you're going to be really disappointed and say, like, why can't I do all these fun things? Because Zan just can't. A mage that can is Zar, chaotic evil human necromancer, found, again, literally in the first area of the game with Montaron. The Candlekeep Coastway has, honestly, a fantastic stat line. 14 strength, 16 dex, 10 con, that's not great, but 17 intelligence, 16 wisdom, and 10 charisma. So again, and you should not be doing this, but if you want to give him either the Tome of Agility or the Tome of Wisdom, I'm forgetting which one that one's called, Understanding or whatever, you can duel him to either a thief or a cleric. Again, you should not be doing this, but you can. But if you don't, he's still a great wizard. He is a fantastic wizard. He can do any wizarding you need him to with that 17 intelligence. Again, the fact that he's not getting ninth level spells doesn't matter in this case. It's still ridiculously good. The fact that you can get him again so early, you can dictate what he actually does. He does have some conflicts. He conflicts with both Khalid and Jaheira and Ajantis, obviously. He is paired with Montaron, although, like I said, he will not care if Montaron dies, just as Montaron will not care if he dies. He is a madman. He is absolutely insane. Unlike Tiax, where, like, it's annoying because Tiax is like a superiority complex, Zar is actually just insane. He's screaming for his mommy. He is a legitimately insane individual who is not, it is not a delusion of grandeur thing with Zar. He is just insane. Being a necromancer, yes, he loses. He gets the extra spells. The extra ability to learn. He loses whatever spell he loses. I'm not sure why it's escaping me at the moment. Illusion. So listen, losing illusion is not great. Why did I think, which one's alteration? Oh, abjuration. Illusion is not great because it means he doesn't get, like, mirror image. So it means you got to keep him away from people. Which you're going to be doing anyway, right? Because he has, I can't believe it took me that long to figure that out. Because he has 4 hit points per level. But he will do everything you need a mage to do. Again, getting him early matters. His conflicts are not super serious because you're probably they are serious, but you're probably choosing either Zan and Montaron or Khalid and Jaheira. You're probably not going to have both of those pairs in your party. But I like Zar. It's funny. Did I give him a tier? I don't know. I'm getting delirious. He's probably, I'll give him A just because he can't be S with no added goodies like, Edwin had the necklace with a bad con. He's got to be A, but he is a great wizard. He also, like Montaron, could get you out of fighting those wizards in Baldur's Gate if you wish. Probably tough. I mean, he's good, but man, oh man. I mean, granted, although there are other wizards with 4 hit points, but God, it feels so bad. It feels so bad to have 4 hit points in this game. To be one shot by kobolds is just, God, it's a rough feeling. But when you spellcast that good, man, that well, it kind of makes up for it. Last but not least, Yezlik, the lawful good dwarven fighter cleric found in the Cloakwood Mine. Good stat line with 15 strength, 12 dexterity, 17 constitution, 7 intelligence, 16 wisdom, and 10 charisma. So he is the highest wisdom of any of the clerics, or tied for the highest. He is a real fighter. He can fight. He also comes with Dispel Magic. Now, this is a big deal, right? Dispel Magic is super valuable. It's not as valuable in Baldur's Gate 1 as it would be in Baldur's Gate 2, but the ability for what mages you do fight, like that mage fight I just mentioned with Zar, that him and Montaron can get you out of, having Yezlik be able to drop Dispel Magic at the beginning of that fight is very valuable. The 12 dex hurts. The 17 con as a dwarf hurts. But he can frontline reasonably. He can buff himself reasonably. I'll give Yezlik a B. One of the biggest problems with Yezlik is that you gotta wait a while to get him. You're into the Mines of Nashkel at that point, which is basically the end of that chapter, which means you're basically at Baldur's Gate, right? So you have to wait a good while before you can actually even get Yezlik in your party. He will do good work. He's also hurt by the fact that because he's illiterate, because of the intelligence, he can't read scrolls, so he can't get any benefits from scrolls and whatnot or wands. He's a good character. Again, he is a bit of a better fighter as well. Like he has real fighting chops as far as putting 2 points in things like Warhammer. But he's like the other clerics, he's kind of mid. He does hate Kagain. Him and Kagain cannot, under any circumstances, be in the same party because they will try to kill each other. Him and Dorn cannot be in the same party, so you have to keep that in mind. Again, he's good. He plays the role of a cleric well. He gets a couple extra bonus spells because of his wisdom. He doesn't have much of a personality to speak of. He's kind of boring. Baldur's Gate 1 and Yeslik is probably proof of it. There were some instances where they probably had too many characters, where some characters did not get the same treatment as others. This was fixed in Baldur's Gate 2. And I would say Yeslik is one of those where he just doesn't have you save him and he's like, thanks for saving me. Want me to hang out with you? And that's pretty much it. He brings up, he's from the Orthar Dwarven clan. Like, he brings up certain things, but there's not a whole lot interesting to him. And like I said, he's a good cleric. He's an okay fighter. You basically have to give him the gauntlets of dexterity if you want to actually use him and have him frontline. But again, like all the other clerics, he's good. Not great, not awful. He's good. He is hurt again. You can get by if you take Jaheira and just have her. It's tougher with just her being your divine spellcaster, but again, the wait is a bit long, but you can make do. And because he's a fighter, it's not like Alora or Ski, where it's like there's literally zero reason to take them over the other thief choices. There is a reason to take Keldorn, Yeslik over like Branwen or Viconia, because he is going to be a better fighter. He just has better fighting skills because he's a multi-class. So it's something to consider. But that is it. That is every companion, a general rundown of every companion in Baldur's Gate 1. I understand this was probably not as in-depth as some were maybe expecting, but the reality is with Baldur's Gate 1 is that it is not quite like Baldur's Gate 2, where in Baldur's Gate 2 you have a lot more to talk about as far as the characters themselves, the items they have, unique things about them, their quests. A lot of characters, like I said, in Baldur's Gate just don't have quests. They just don't have anything really special about them. It's a bit easier to talk about them in that respect. I hope you enjoyed this either way. Like I said, I will return with the video for the second game sometime in the future. So I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, I hope you learned something. I had quite a bit of fun doing this, but I am now very tired. I am done talking for the day. So I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the part for the second game.